Sorry for interruption. प्रेजेंटेशन नजर आ रही है आप लोगों को? आवाज आ रही है? आवाज आ रही है आप लोगों को?
यस सर, आ रही है।
ओके, थैंक यू, थैंक यू. We are discussing the pathophysiology of the paradoxic acid urea. So, what happened in this situation? In hypertrophic pyloric stenosis, because of the repeated vomiting, because of the repeated loss of the fluid and electrolytes, patient develop metabolic alkalosis. And normally, when babies develop the metabolic alkalosis, body compensate the acid from the various other organs, from the lungs, from the kidney, to compensate, to normalize the blood pH. So initial response is to conserve the acid. So baby passed alkaline urine by conserving the bicarbonate, potassium, sodium ion, and hydrogen is reabsorbed. So body should try to normalize the blood pH. But with the time, due to continuous vomiting, dehydration degree is high, severe dehydration, it causing the activation of the renin-angiotensin mechanism, and it conserves the sodium and water absorption and potassium loss. So now at that situation, the potassium significantly decreased because of the already hypokalemic, because of repeated vomiting, loss of the potassium from the stomach content, plus the activation of the renin-angiotensin mechanism, the potassium very much decreased. And potassium is very important as compared to the hydrogen ion. So the hydrogen potassium channels becomes activated in the kidney, in the nephron, and potassium is absorbed in place of the hydrogen ion. So the excretion of the hydrogen ion start in the urine. So patient start to loss of the acid in the urine also. Even kidney has no disease, but patient passing the paradoxic acid urea because of the significantly decreased potassium level. X-ray, when we advise the X-ray in the patient of suspecting hypertrophic pyloric stenosis, stomach shadow is easily appreciated and showing the dilatation of the stomach, always present in the hypertrophic pyloric sphincter. Also in other condition like dural atresia, malrotation, the stomach become dilated. But if the features of the projectile vomiting, non-bilious, along with this dilated X-ray, you can easily diagnose the hypertrophic pyloric sphincter. Ultrasound is very, very important. 90 to 100% sensitive. A good ultrasonologist easily measure and tell you that what is the exact measurement of the pyloric sphincter. We require 3 measurements to confirm the hypertrophy of that region. One measurement is total canal length, it less than 15 millimeter. If it is 15 millimeter, it is confirmed that patient has hypertrophy of the pyloric sphincter. Second measurement is the wall thickness, this muscle thickness. So total canal wall thickness is, if it is the more than 4 millimeter, more than 5 millimeter, we confirm that patient has hypertrophy. And second, the pyloric width, pyloric canal total width. If it is more than 10 millimeter, we confirm that patient has hypertrophy of that region, and then we plan the surgery. So clinical features, baseline investigations, X-ray and ultrasound, all required to definite diagnosis before the surgery. Upper GI study, a very old investigation, not usually advised nowadays. But if you advise this contrast study, barium sulfate or gastrographin fluid, when we ingest it through the NG, stomach easily appreciated dilated with various signs, mushroom sign, shoulder signs, various signs. Different people says different name. Plus the narrowing of the lumen easily appreciated. So this study previously advised to confirm the pyloric sphincter stenosis and hypertrophy, but nowadays because of the ultrasound is present, very cheap and not aggressive and easily available at every center, so we not advise the upper GI study because of the repeated vomiting. Patient has already has obstruction, narrowing and projectile vomiting, and this stomach become full with this contrast study. So stomach full with this contrast agent causing vomiting and aspiration entered into the respiratory tract, causing the aspiration pneumonia, barium pneumonitis. So nowadays this study is not routinely advised. These are the differential diagnosis because these all conditions causing the repeated vomiting, and we already discussed one by one previously. So you can easily rule out after taking proper history and examination and investigation, you can easily reach the actual diagnosis of the baby. Management. How we manage this condition? The definitive treatment is surgery, but it is not emergency because these babies when present usually dehydrated, lethargic with acid base disturbances. So we admit this baby, we start fluids to replace the fluid and electrolytes. Once they become normal, by assessing the urine output, when patient passing adequate urine at least 1 ml per kg per hour, and babies not tachycardic, general condition become improved, then we plan the definitive procedure to relieve the obstruction. Ideal fluid, another important interesting question usually asked in the exam. What is the ideal fluid in this condition? Some student reply the normal saline, some says ringer lactate is ideal, some says half strength is ideal. Very important question. If you understand and if you clear your concept, the various uh, drip constitution, how drip made and what is the content of this drip IV fluids, then you can easily assess and advise the ideal fluid in this condition. Because the ringer lactate is alkaline juice, it contains bicarbonate, it provides bicarbonate to the body, and patient has already metabolic alkalosis. So ringer lactate further deteriorating the condition. It is responsible to further worsening of the condition. Ringer lactate is contraindicated in this situation. Although ringer lactate fluid is very, very important for dehydration recovery, for in the case of loose motion, gastroenteritis, in case of shock, to replace the IV fluids, IV fluid status in the body. But in this condition, it is relatively contraindicated because of the already patient has metabolic alkalosis and ringer lactate content bicarbonate alkaline juice, so it is not usually advised. Normal saline, high level of the uh, sodium and chloride, and these babies, these are neonates, second or third week presentation, so normal saline is not ideal fluid for these babies. So which fluid is ideal? Theoretically, hydrochloric acid loss by repeated vomiting, but it is not practically possible that we start HCl directly into the vein because it is causing the sclerosing, very, very low pH. So acid fluid not possible to give to the patient. If patient has significantly decreased sodium level, then the normal saline is the ideal fluid because it contains high level of the sodium. But if there is an average type not significantly decreased sodium, then half strength is the ideal fluid in these babies. Ringer lactate is not appropriate fluid. Once baby is rehydrated, electrolytes becomes normal, blood pH become normal, then you advise 0.18% dextrosaline. Routinely in other conditions, we write down 0.18% in neonates because it contain very low level of the sodium. Half strength and normal saline contain high level of the sodium. So depending upon the sodium concentration, their strength is various. So IV fluids composition you should know. So in which condition, which type of the fluid is required to the patient. In this scenario, in this condition, if the sodium is very much low, the ideal fluid is normal saline. Second, 0.45%, half strength. Regulated not advised. In case of hypokalemia, because patient has metabolic alkalosis along with the various decreased level of the sodium, potassium, chloride, usually required potassium also before the definitive procedure. And potassium is not uh, given in the initial bolus because it replaces very slowly. So should be added in the maintenance fluid. Surgical treatment. The important procedure is Ramstead pyloromyotomy. As the name indicated, pyloromyotomy. We split incision made over the pyloric sphincter vertically, and gradually we split this thickened muscle fibers. These thickened muscle fibers splitting, so underlying mucosa and submucosa layer, it bulge out from this thickened muscle fibers. This is the basically to relieve the obstruction, to increase the lumen. So narrowness of the lumen, stenosis becomes relieved. So this is a definitive procedure under general anesthesia. Once we deliver the stomach, we confirm that patient has hypertrophy of this pyloric sphincter. Thickened fibers are easily appreciated once we deliver the stomach and examine the stomach. And we made the incision vertically to split the muscle fibers, which causing the narrowing of lumen. So splitting and the bulging of the underlying mucosa and submucosa. Then we confirm that patient has now there no obstruction in the distal portion of the stomach, and then we re-enter the stomach and close the abdomen. So this is a basic surgical procedure to relieve the obstruction at that region. And most of the cases, Prognosis very good, and patient recover and gain weight, dehydration completely resolved, electrolyte disturbance becomes normal. The complication of the surgical procedure is every other surgical procedure. In this case, yes, wound infection, post-operative sometimes vomiting present because of the dilatation is not relieved. Gradually, stomach dilatation relieved. So initially, patient has few episodes of the vomiting, which is normal. Wound infection, duodenal perforation. Yes, if you not adequately perform this procedure and incision made not only the pyloric region but up to the duodenum, yes, duodenal perforation can occur during the procedure, and we repair at that time usually. If the mucosa is accidentally opened, we repair also the mucosa at same surgical procedure and made another incision. So various complication can occur during the procedure. Permanent scar, yes, every procedure leads to develop the scar, surgical incision scar, and incisional hernia. If the healing is not proper and later stage, few patient can develop incisional hernia if not adequately closed the wound. These are the recent advances, new techniques to treat the hypertrophic pyloric stenosis. Laparoscopic pyloromyotomy, endoscopic pyloromyotomy, pylorotrauma myoplasty, endoscopic balloon dilatation, and very, very old treatment atropine therapy. Nowadays, not used. So various techniques through laparoscopically approach, and the treatment is same. The basic step is same. Incision made over the thickened muscle fibers to splitting, and underlying lumen becomes wider by mucosa, and some mucosa bulge out, so the lumen becomes wider and obstruction relieved. Thank you, all the students. If any question, you can ask by raising hand. Okay, Allah Hafiz.